Welcome to the Leadership, Impact, and Talent Podcast, where we spotlight leaders driving innovation across energy, technology, and infrastructure.
I started my first business at age 8, and I was fixing bikes in the neighborhood for my friends. And
so I'd like to think of myself as the visionary. I'm an ideas guy. I'm always thinking, always tinkering and adjusting.
Leadership has to do with inspiring people, and it has to do with creating an environment where they can be successful.
Probably the most important tool to me. Learned about how to treat people and how to treat myself, and learned some humility.
Stay nimble, get a team around you so that you can focus in on what your core competencies are, which for you, you're a builder. So you need to go and build.
You know, if you do the right thing and keep your clients at the center of what you're doing and measure that value, right? Make sure that you're delivering that. You know, a lot of other things will fall into place.
What's that one piece of advice that you'd give?
Work hard and don't take no for an answer. Don't let people tell you you will never make it. This has been said so many times. Find something you are passionate about.
Today's guest is Rick W. Williams III, CEO and president of Marin H2O, a premier plumbing and water treatment company serving Marin County, California. Rick's journey from growing up in a family plumbing business to founding and scaling Marin H2O is nothing short of inspiring. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate you having me.
All right. I'm excited to dig in. Rick, you've got a pretty interesting background. I know before the call, we were talking a little bit about how you grew up working in the family plumbing business. Then you branched out, started Marin H2O, and have since scaled it. And you're the proud owner of at least a handful of different companies that are all rolling up to you. So I was curious if you could tell the audience a little bit about your background and kind of how you went from where you were back when you originally started and founded Marin H2O to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I started out in a water treatment business. That was a business that my grandfather and grandmother started in the 61. And later my dad and uncle ran it, and then me and my father. And I started Marin H2O probably early 2000 when I kind of could see that the company wasn't going to grow anymore. And I had a growing family. I needed a better income. So I was working out of my garage with the Marin H2O. Later, I ended up, in 2004, I purchased my dad's company and kind of grew the two companies together, because although water treatment is much different than plumbing, there's a lot of the same characteristics, you know. So like I was telling you, we would be doing filter changes, and we would end up changing a garbage disposal, and then it became water heaters, and then it became toilets and sewers and all that kind of stuff. And the two companies just kind of grew together. And later it became apparent that I was getting much more into underground, and I have like 4 contractors licenses, but we were doing a lot of street work and stuff like that. And I came across a construction company that had some equipment and some really good people. And I didn't expect to get into construction, but I did. And it was a good move for me because, where I really didn't understand as much about structural concrete and foundation work and hillside remediation and creek stabilization, I loved it because I'm dealing with tractors and loaders and dump trucks, and it was cool. It was like being in a big sandbox. And then we realized that we were able to, kind of incestually feed each other, because when you do an underground project, maybe the plumber's not ready to do the plumbing. And so I have guys that are ready to come on board and do that. And vice versa, we're doing, changing out shower valves, and I've got guys that can do tile. And so we can provide the customer a faster quality service than most other guys can. When you control your subs, you have a really good handle on being able to control the flow and the time frame of when projects are finished. It just happened that it got as big as it did. I mean, I have no real parochial knowledge in this kind of thing. It's just a matter of having big nuts and taking chances, and never giving up. I will say that probably the most important tool to me, I learned through the Alcoholics Anonymous. I got sober about 25 years ago, and it taught me a lot about humility and respect, and treating my people differently. When I started to build the real foundation in the company, which is the people, and provide them with benefits and overtime and vacation time and 401k and medical, that's when the people stuck around and were able to build and grow, because you can only make so many mistakes. And although I feel like that's the only way you really learn, you want to get those guys that have made those mistakes to move forward and keep them on.
Yeah.
And we've done a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, retaining the talent. I mean, over time, right? If you have somebody working with you for 3 to 5 years, you train them up, right? You've obviously invested a lot in them. It'd be great if they would stay with you and then invest in the future employees, right?
And some of them just move on and start their own businesses. And I kind of look at that as, it's kind of a privilege to have started them out. I don't look at them like competition. I look at them like collaboration, because there's a couple of guys that have started plumbing companies that bring on jobs they can't handle. And, they turn them over to me, and we're able to, make them look good. So it works out well. It's a life of giver's gain, right? You give, when you give, you get a lot more in return than you expect.
Absolutely. I think that's a hard shift for a lot of people. I've seen where you groom an employee, right? Somebody, you've taken them under your wing, you've provided them with all of the tools to be successful, and then they run off and start their own thing, right? That could be seen as pretty frustrating for some owners. But for you, you actually look at it a little bit differently. And then I imagine there's an element of that you probably bring in when you're training employees in the future. So was this like a big mind shift change that happened for you? And you were mentioning at some point when you're exiting AA, that's kind of around the time when it happened? Or is this something that you've always felt obligated to give your employees?
Well, I never exited AA. I've always been a part of that program, some years more than others, but no, that's when I learned about how to treat people and how to treat myself, and learned some humility. Although I can't say I'm entirely perfect when it comes to that, because there's a certain amount of arrogance you got to have in the position that I'm at so that you can be successful. But for the most part, I try and, I wear a shirt like the rest of the guys. I could wear a suit, right?
Yeah, no. There's like an element of being there with them, right? Rather than, because you're there to support them, but you're also on the front lines if they need you.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about, obviously, you started Marin H2O. You made the decision to purchase your family's water treatment company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you've made some strategic decisions to purchase, construction companies. And was this all a part of your vision at the start? Or was this something where the opportunities opened up and you saw the linkages between the companies and how they could support one another?
Both. I wanted to have a company that was big enough to support a staff so they could afford to live in the area where we live, which is, Marin County. It's fairly expensive to live here. And it's hard to do that at a small scale. But also I wanted to be one of the biggest companies in Marin County. And it just was a vision of mine. And so I set my goals towards that. And, there's been a lot of stumbling blocks along the way, but I never gave up. To this day, I'm not giving up. I'm looking at getting into electrical. I'm going to try and buy another company here soon.
Wow. So you're looking at more opportunities to continue to scale, right? And it's really the driving force behind all of this is, hey, you got to treat your employees well. You got to create a company where maybe they feel safe, they feel protected, they feel like they can actually grow their career with you. Would you say that at the forefront is an element that you then give to, because we were talking before the call, you can't do this yourself. You have to get middle management involved, right? And so now you have some managers who are helping you, facilitate day-to-day operations. How do you take this vision that you have, which is really creating a company, creating an atmosphere where employees can come in, grow their careers and stay with you, and translating that to the leaders that you're promoting within?
It's an interesting question. A lot of times when I do the interviewing process, it's about a gut feeling, not necessarily about the quality. I hire more on integrity and character than I do on the actual knowledge of a system or project, because I can train that. The integrity and character part is something that it's hard to train. And you usually find that out within the first few months of hiring someone. It's I've learned in my later years that you hire slow and fire quick.
That's awesome. And then there's an element of that, obviously, that your management team is bringing in.
Yeah,
and they're incorporating.
I've got a great team of managers. They have the same philosophy. These guys work hard and they put in the extra time and they care, and it makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. Why do you think your managers stick around?
They weren't always managers. They started out at the lower level, and they've worked their way up the ladder, and they're able to relate with the people in the field. They're able to look at what I've done in the past for people. And I think they're also able to see what we want to do in the future.
Yeah, so there's that element of promoting from within, right? If they were field technicians and now they're superintendents, right?
No, there's other levels where you hire, people that have skill sets, accountants, lawyers, and HR staff. They know what they're doing. They don't really need to know a lot about the business, but they need to know the laws around it.
Right. That's awesome. Okay. So learned a little bit about your leadership style, how you've created the culture that you've created on your team, right? Promoting from within, looking for integrity and character over skills, right? You can train anybody on how to do pretty much anything, right? As long as they're a high quality individual. Can you tell me a little bit about the vision for Marin H2O in the future? And what do you see as, obviously you said your next opportunity, it may be getting into electrical work, but is this just another way where you can continue to deliver high quality service to your customers?
Yeah. I mean, it's, the people that we do business with have been customers. Some of them are my grandfather's customers. Biggest problem I have is the attrition rate because they're dying. They're in their 70s and 80s, but when they know you, like you, and trust you, the fact that you're doing another service, they usually just want to do business with me. They know how I handle things and they, stick with me for that. But, we just have switched over to some pretty state-of-the-art software and are using it across all the companies. It's called Service Titan, and it is a phenomenal program. And that it's able to, the phone call comes in. If they're a customer, the bubble comes up on the screen, and the people in the office are able to click on that. It fills out everything that's needed for a work order. That work order is then generated and put into the computer system, which then goes to the iPad that you want to take it to. So the guys in the field have it right there. They can see the entire customer history. They make notes real time. I can see what's going on with the systems and that kind of thing. They take pictures and it shows exactly what's going on to the account. It's right there. They can write an estimate in the field, get a signature to have it completed, send an invoice from the field, and then incorporates back into our back office. Just, the advances in technology in the past few years have just been amazing on the customer side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Technology's been a big part of what we're doing right now. It's not easy, you Teams and Outlook and all these different things that come together. And I don't know much about computers. I remember when Apple came out, we played Asteroids and Pac-Man. There's no talking on the computer kind of system. Fortunately, I have people that know more about that stuff than I do because I had a hard time just getting you on here.
Hey, but we made it. We made it, and we're learning.
Yeah.
But I think it sounds like that's an element of what you bring also, though, right? You've attracted people who maybe complement the areas that aren't your strong suits, which allows you to continue doing what you do best, right? Setting the vision for the company, looking out strategically. How can we make this a better end-to-end process for our customers? We've already got the tile guys. We've got the plumbing guys, right? We've got the construction and framers. Now we've got electricians, potentially, right? If that's the direction that you're going.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to be kind of a one-stop shop, and I have the space to do it. So I feel like that's the next thing. I'm slowing down a little bit right now, only that I need to get better at what we're doing with this new program. There's a lot more training and stuff involved, but we'll move forward. It's a matter of time. I'm just, at 55 years old, I'm thinking, how much more time do I got?
Yeah, probably as much time as you can muster, continuing to have a good time, right? Like there's
Right.
probably an element to that.
Right.
Well, Service Titan sounds really cool. It also sounds like another service that you're providing to your clients, right? That
Right.
just streamline their entire process instead of
Right.
having emails or different things coming in from different peoples within your company.
Right.
Everything's handled out in the field, which is a pretty cool innovation.
That's the
So-
vision.
That's the vision. That's the vision. Just for my own curiosity, does it tie into like the drawings as well? Are you able to map everything out and tie it to
Oh,
PDF?
it's got a GPS thing that shows me where all my guys are at any given time.
Sweet.
It's, I can bring and incorporate plans into the account so they can access plans from the field. They can access,
Cool.
little things as, engineering letters, that kind of stuff. So they're more, all their information is right there, and
Which is perfect. They don't have to go and dig. It's
Right.
all right there at the click of a button.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Rick, it's been really cool kind of hearing about the evolution of you, how you went from what you were doing growing up, working at the family company. Now you're the proud owner of 5 different companies, soon to be 6. We'll keep our fingers crossed for that, right? Implementing new technologies and creating an end-to-end process that makes it, obviously it shows that you're leading with service in mind, right? And it's probably a very large component of what's made you successful over the years. So before we close out here today, Rick, was looking to see if you could give other leaders of corporations, founders who are developing their companies, any advice that you would pick from your years of experience in order to help them go from, kind of live the same story that you've lived, go from where you were to where you are today.
I think it all starts by making your bed, finish one project completely first thing in the morning, every morning. And then when I'm doing that little hospital corner, I drop to my knees and I thank God for all the things that he's given me and the opportunities that are in front of me. I'm not a perfect man, but I try and do that every day. Then I have a little, saying, I look in the mirror, and this was, went to a leadership seminar years ago where Tommy Gibbons was speaking. He came up with a tagline that I tell myself every day, and it says, I'm going to win today. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Faith, courage, and enthusiasm. I'm going to meet the right people in the right place at the right time for the betterment of all. I'm a winner, I'm a contributor, and I'm an achiever, and I believe in me. And just having that affirmation every morning is one of the things I do to help.
Man, I love that. I love that. Make your bed. Be grateful for what it is that you have, because there's an element of you got to put the hard work in, right? But there's also an element of that invisible hand that moves you along, right? And keeps giving you the grace you need to be successful.
Exactly.
Well, Rick, this has been a super powerful podcast. I really enjoyed learning more about Marin H2O and your own journey and what's made you successful. Sounds like you're running a great operations over there. Thank you so much for joining us. And team, tune in next time for the next episode of Leadership Impact in Podcast. Rick, thanks for joining, man.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.